Welcome to Center Stage on WADL TV 38 Detroit. I'm Bankole Thompson. The 1 hour special that NBC, Dateline NBC, however you want to call it, aired on Detroit last week, Sunday, was very interesting. A lot of outrageous reaction out of that special. Some people are equally happy, thinking it was the best thing perhaps that came out of Detroit. Other people are visibly upset, knowing that perhaps there are other places or there are other issues or there are other stories that could have helped to balance that 1 hour special done by Chris Hansen. When we come right after this break, we'll have a roundtable that will analyze and put the Dateline NBC special under the microscope. Also, in this week's edition of the Michigan Chronicle newspaper, our reaction calling out the Dateline NBC hatchet job on Detroit. All coming up right after this break.
People are corrupt. They have a history of corruption.
We need change. We need investment in our people.
I'm not here to do anything other than move this city forward.
It's in all of our best interests not to make the cuts so deep.
Michigan must survive in order for this country to thrive.
And we have to change the image if we want businesses to come.
I hope that we will make our voices loud.
The road ahead will be long.
Welcome back to Center Stage. Let's bring in our interesting roundtable this afternoon. Bertram Marks, General Counsel from the Detroit Council of Baptist Pastors. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Emmy Award-winning television producer Tony Motley. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Deidre Bounds, Managing Partner at Brogan & Partners. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Let's begin. It's a lot to talk about here, but just to get your reaction, Deidre, let me start with you.
Well, my initial reaction was, my gosh, how one-sided that show was, and I also felt like, what was Chris's objective? What was his goal in doing that? And maybe he accomplished his goal, and maybe what he wanted was for us to get outraged and to get excited and speak up and do something. One of the things he said was he was showing some tough love to a tough-as-nails city. So maybe that's what he was looking for, and I think we're all energized now to talk about it and show the other side.
Tough love. Let me take you to the minister. You are the minister here, Bertram Marks. Is that what you think? It was tough love given to a tough city?
Well, my reaction was both as a member of the faith community and also as an attorney. I mean, when you're dealing with telling a story, you have to be able to allow whomever you're speaking to examine all aspects of the story. And I think that Dateline NBC, through Chris Hansen, did a terrible job of, they lacked journalistic integrity in the sense that they didn't give you a balanced approach about Detroit. And from the faith side of me, I'm thinking that you're only showing suffering for the most part. You're not showing any rays of hope. Where are you building this notion of hope in the people? And so it almost seemed to me that this was designed to make those who are feeling a little low about Detroit feel lower, and for those who have disdain for Detroit to keep that disdain moving. Now, I'm sure some bright spots will come out of this because of the Bankole Thompsons of the world. Our first conversation was about this. You mentioned the journalistic integrity issue, and I think that's so important that you have that aspect to the story. Even as we open this show, you admitted that, hey, there may be some people out there who liked this approach, and that's just a necessary component to any story. Now, are there rays of hope that we're going to find in this panel? Absolutely. I think that your viewers are going to hear what we think should have been included that was not.
And I will get in depth in that, but let me move to the television producer here. This is what you do. You've done documentaries that I've seen. If you were in charge of the camera or you were in charge of this assignment, what would you have done?
Well, I think Chris Hansen did what Chris Hansen would have done. And I think that diversity in the media, people with different perspectives that are considered outside of the mainstream, clearly weren't in the room making those decisions. I think the piece did what it set out to do. If you and I were doing it, possibly, definitely a lot that was there would not have been there. Other things that were left out or weren't asked or questions, perspectives would have been brought in. And so I think that's the problem with a piece like this, is it was really almost a personal journey for him. His coming home, hometown boy does good, comes back to Detroit, tells a story about a city. I think he told it from his point of view with love, but I think it wasn't it wasn't clearly the whole picture. But I think you're right. I think some people are going to look at it and say, yeah, he's right, you know. And we Detroiters are just embarrassed because they're showing the world our dirty laundry. But I think there's much more to it than that. And plus, we've heard that story. I didn't hear anything that I didn't already know.
Deidre, you are a public relations veteran and you work for a public relations firm. I guess from a public relations perspective, where do you see this puts the city, and how is there a recovering period, if you will, for the city of Detroit?
Well, I think, you know, from a PR perspective, you know, gosh, if the city were my client, I would feel like we had a lot of work to do to recover from that story. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just about, I won't call it an attack, but it was certainly an outpouring of somebody's perspective about what they think was happening or is happening here. And in a lot of cases, what he portrayed was true. A lot of those things were true. But the fact of the matter is, we feel lower about what we saw because we know it's true. And so how do you, again, get people rallied to want to do something different? As a PR professional, my first step would be to reach out to Chris Hansen and say, thank you for doing the story. What are you going to do to help us fix this? You're a hometown boy makes good, right? Hometown boy comes back to the city to show why he's sad about what's happening here. What are you going to do to help fix this? And we want to get you into the fold to help solve these problems that you have so eloquently portrayed to the nation.
But the question is he even going to come back and do another story that is balanced? Because I say this because we saw Daniel Okrent from Time magazine jet in, again, he also was a hometown boy. He jet in, wrote his piece, and made it look as if, you know, Detroit in the streets, white people cannot even walk in the streets, that black people in Detroit are killing white people. I mean, that's the kind of image he presented. And we never heard from him since then, despite the reaction.
But Bankole, let me just say
I wouldn't ask my neighbor to give a tour of my house to a relative who I was showing it to. I'm not depending on the Chris Hansens of the world to tell Detroit's story. I'm depending on the Bankole Thompsons of the world to tell the world what Detroit is about. And I think this goes to your point. I mean, you know, what are you going to do solution-wise? I mean, there wasn't very many solutions on there. But again, you have to look at the Detroiters who care about Detroit to tell its story. We have to be ambassadors. We do have to accept that there are some deficiencies in our community which we have become immune to and have accepted. That is a fact that I think we all get. And maybe, just maybe, your attention to this story will force us to go back and re-examine that issue. But in terms of telling our story, we can't rely on Dateline NBC to tell it. The Michigan Chronicle will tell it. This show will tell our story far better. And I think that if nothing else, it should cause us to focus on where we're getting our information from. What are we relying on? And let's rely on the best information, not the information for somebody who sort of comes in, takes a look, holds up a mirror for a brief point, and then rides out.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's more than asking him to come back and do another story or to tell our story. My point of view is this: if you want to be part of the solution, you need to get in these neighborhoods, roll up your sleeves, give a call to Robert Bobb and Mayor Bing, and find out what you can do beyond being a journalist. I'm talking about being a human being, being a person who is concerned about what's happening here.
Being a stakeholder.
Being a stakeholder.
Let's hold that thought. Stakeholder, we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll have the round table.